Hey Clashers, today we are going to learn how to dominate with the Swarm deck in Clash Royale. So thank you so much for watching today. As you can see, doing pretty well now in Legendary Arena. I was as high as 3150. I'm using the same deck in a couple of different variations. So what we're going to do today is talk about each of the cards in the deck. We'll do a live match, and then we'll talk about maybe some substitutions that somebody could make. So obviously the deck is based around these two cards, the Barbarian Hut and the Spear Goblin Hut. Now I have the actual Spear Goblins and Barbarians to use in conjunction to really help beef up the offensive surges in the deck. Now the Mirror card obviously gives us more options in terms of creating even more, or heavier of a swarm if you will. So we can replicate obviously a Hog if we want to, or we can replicate one of the huts, one of the spawning units. We also have the Fireball, the Minion Horde. The Fireball, the Hog, and the Minion Horde play different roles in the deck, obviously, and the Fireball and the Minion Horde are the flex cards that you can actually change out for different cards, which, like I said, we'll cover at the end of this episode. So this is basically the structure of the deck. We have 3 spawning units, potentially using the Mirror as the 3rd spawning unit. And then we have both of the units that spawn in the Spear Goblins and the Barbarians to make an even heavier push. So the idea here, as we'll try to get a friendly battle, if not, we'll just go out into the wild. But the idea here is to start off kind of slow. You start off trying to play some defense, trying to gauge what the other player has in his deck, try to gauge all his cards, play defense, build up and what you want to kind of do here in the beginning of the match. We're not really getting a match here from my clan, so I might switch over to global in a second, but the idea here is in the first half of the match, in the beginning of the match, you just want to do a little bit of damage to each of the towers, or maybe even one tower, but the idea is to set yourself up really nicely for a really strong finish. So I went out into the open. I have Aram here. We're going to be playing him, and the idea here, like I said, is going to play things kind of slow. It's okay. Oh, he starts out with the Baby Dragon, so I should mention now that the 2 worst cards to go up against on this deck are the Baby Dragon and the Wizard. Both cards very difficult to beat because they both have that splash damage, especially the Baby Dragon because he obviously can't be targeted by our Barbarians, and the Baby Dragon will also eat right through our Spear Goblins. So we're just going to totally ignore the Baby Dragon. You guys probably already know this by now, but Baby Dragons don't do too much damage to the towers. So we're going to go ahead and distract that Charging Prince with some Barbarians. We have some backup Barbarians out of the hut as well. So you can see right now I haven't done anything offensively. In fact, he's done more damage to me than I've done to him. So he has a pretty good deck against this type of deck, but I'm still confident that we might be able to get the win. Another Baby Dragon that we're going to ignore on the left-hand lane, so I'm just going to build another hut instead. The idea here is when you're low on elixir, or when you're not sure what to do next, always build another hut. Now, when building a hut, though, it's important to say that you don't want to just build one when you don't want to build a hut when you'll be left with 0 elixir. See what I'm doing right here? I'm waiting until I was at 10 elixir, then I'll build the hut. Then at least I can come up with some kind of a defense against this prince, for example. Now he's going to get in a few hits, that's for sure, but at least I'm able to kill him, whereas had I played that Barbarian hut earlier and I didn't have any elixir to fall back on, I would have been in big trouble there. So the idea here is on this deck, when using any swarm deck, make sure that you build. You can see I'm going to drop the Hog in here, obviously in the right-hand lane. He says well played because it was a good play on my part. I knew he was low on elixir. I had a good offensive going with that Minion Horde, and then I went ahead and I took out that right tower using a Hog. The Hogs are sneaky to slip in there with this deck, but the number one rule, like I said here, at this point I'm just going to start building huts. Once you get a 1-tower advantage, or even a 2-tower advantage like this, go ahead and just keep stocking up on huts. It's going to be very difficult for an opponent to come from behind when you're using this deck. That's one of the keys, one of the huge strengths to the deck. If you can get a lead, it's easy to maintain a lead with this deck. So, as I was saying, the number one rule for this deck is when you drop down a hut, don't do so when you'll be left with no elixir left. You want to make sure you're always playing from a position where you at least have 3 elixir back once you drop that Barbarian hut. Now, obviously, you can see right now I gave up my left tower, but I'm prepared for a big onslaught of troops coming after my right-hand tower, so what I'm doing is just building huts to protect my tower. That's how you play defense. That's how you play endgame strategy with this swarm deck. You build huts in front of your tower, and obviously the huts... Oh, a magical chest! The huts and the units are going to protect that tower. So I got a magical chest. That is really cool. Didn't expect to have that happen live, so of course we have to open it, right? So let's go ahead and gem the opening time on this silver chest here, and then we'll go ahead and gem up that magical chest and see what's in it. So 72 gems down the drain, womp womp. But hey, 861 gold, that's a lot of gold. 34 skeletons, that's good. 53 goblins, wow. Valkyrie, that puts us at a new Valkyrie level. More barbarian huts, that's good because we've been doing a lot of spawning decks. Fireball 7, Hog Riders 11, that's very good. And P.E.K.K.A.'s almost up to level 5 P.E.K.K.A. That's great, fantastic. So let's go ahead and start a new chest out, and let's talk about some different combinations of cards you can use in this spawner deck strategy. So I told you guys you can swap out the Fireball. Now Smur has got all the way to 3,500 cups using this deck with the arrows for the Fireball, so he prefers the arrows. Now let's talk about that Minion Horde card. You can use the Minion Horde, you can swap that out for the cheaper minions, and it brings the cost of the deck much cheaper. So if you're struggling all the way down to 4.8 to 4.2, so if you're struggling with the cost of the deck being an issue, you find that you're not yet a pro with elixir management, go ahead and consider swapping in the minions for the Minion Horde and the arrows for the Fireball. Now, I like to play with a giant sometimes in this deck, because a giant, you might think that a tankier unit like the giant card mixed with a barbarian card isn't a great fit for this deck, but it actually really is. Also, the witch is a great fit for the deck. You can start the witch way behind the huts, and she'll create the skeletons to help with your swarm in that lane. So what else do I like in that spot? Well, we could certainly use the wizard. We could use the wizard in that spot instead of the witch. That's a good splash damage, something this deck is otherwise lacking. So go ahead and try the wizard in there, try the giant, or try even the mini P.E.K.K.A. is actually really good in that spot. So that kind of a flex spot, if you will, in this deck can really come in handy. So guys, those are some different variations you can use. I'm going to go ahead and put my Minion Horde and my Fireball back in there because that's the deck that I really like playing. And by the way, guys, if you didn't know this already, I'm streaming every Sunday and then another random day at 2 p.m. Eastern on Mob Crush. I played this game for like 3 hours this Sunday, had a lot of fun. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this deck composition and this guide, this strategy help. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you so much for watching. Take care, guys.
We don't play for fame, we don't play for cash. We just play for the glory and the clash of the ash.